The outpost was quiet that night. Only the hum of machines filled the air. Jason, a human engineer from Earth, sat near the security gates, trying to fix a damaged sensor panel. The alien guards from the local planet, known as the Terini, watched him carefully, tall figures covered in smooth dark fur and armor plates that shimmered under the neon lights. Among them stood one who always caught his attention, a Beastwoman guard named Urkala. She was huge, strong, and proud, her golden eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. Every step she took echoed like thunder, and every soldier respected her. But to Jason, she was more than just intimidating. She was fascinating. He often joked with the guards to make the long nights shorter. But Urkala never laughed, never even smiled. She only growled in reply. That night, when she walked by, her tail flicking with annoyance, Jason couldn't resist teasing her again. "Careful, Urkala," he said with a grin. "If you frown any harder, your face might crack." For a moment, there was silence. The other guards froze. Urkala's eyes widened, her claws flexed, and Jason thought, "This is it. I'm dead." But instead of roaring or striking, Urkala tilted her head and let out a strange, low rumbling sound. It wasn't a growl, it was a purr. Jason blinked, unsure what just happened. The alien guard, the fiercest of them all, was purring. And worse, she was looking straight at him like a predator discovering something new. "You mock me," she said softly, her voice deep and vibrating through the air. "But your scent does not carry fear." Jason laughed nervously. "I guess I ran out of that." She stepped closer, her eyes glowing brighter. "Strange human," she said. "You make me feel calm." The other guards began whispering among themselves, some even backing away. Jason tried to step back, but Urkala followed, keeping her golden eyes locked on him. It was like she was studying him, memorizing every breath. Then, without warning, she leaned close and sniffed near his neck. Jason froze completely, his tools falling to the ground. "What are you doing?" he asked. Urkala's pupils narrowed, and she said in a low growl, claiming scent. Jason didn't understand, but the guards around them gasped. One of them muttered, "By the moons, she's chosen him." Urkala looked at Jason again, her expression softer now, almost protective. "You laughed at me, human," she said. "Now I protect you." Jason blinked. "Wait, what?" But before he could move, she touched the side of his face gently with her clawed hand. Her skin was warm, her claws careful not to cut, and that low purr returned, deep and steady, echoing through his chest. Later, when Jason went to his small quarters, Urkala followed. He tried to close the door, but she simply stood guard outside, arms crossed, her tail swaying. He sighed, "You're seriously staying here?" Her golden eyes glowed through the small window. "You laughed," she said. "You belong to me now." Jason sat on his bunk, running a hand through his hair. He didn't know whether to laugh again or start panicking. On one hand, he had just accidentally bonded with an alien warrior who could break him in half. On the other hand, she seemed to be guarding him like he was the most important thing in the world. As the night grew darker, Jason stared at the glowing sky beyond the glass. He didn't know what he had started, but deep inside, something told him. That single laugh had changed everything. And outside, Urkala stood silent, eyes scanning the darkness. Every sound, every movement, she watched carefully. Her instincts were clear now, the human was hers. And anyone who tried to harm him would learn what it meant to anger a Terini Beastwoman. Morning arrived on Outpost 47, but Jason barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard the steady sound of footsteps outside his door. Urkala never left her post, standing there like a living wall. When Jason finally stepped out, she turned her head instantly, golden eyes locking on him. "You did not rest well," she said, her deep voice vibrating like thunder through the hallway. Jason rubbed his neck awkwardly. "Kind of hard to sleep when a giant cat soldier is breathing outside my door." Her ears twitched at the word cat. "I am not cat," she said, her tail flicking once. "I am Terini." Jason held up his hands. "Right? Terini, big difference." He tried to walk past her toward the canteen, but she followed. Every step he took, she matched, silent but close enough that he could feel her warmth. Other crew members stared, whispering behind their cups. "Looks like the human made a friend," someone murmured. Jason shot them a look that screamed, "Help me." At breakfast, He sat with his tray, pretending to ignore her as she stood nearby like a royal guard. When another worker, Kellen, tried to sit next to him, Rakala growled low in her throat. The poor guy froze, then quickly moved to another table. Jason sighed. Rakala, you can't scare everyone away. Her ears flattened. They approached too close, she said simply. It's breakfast, not a battlefield, he muttered, but she didn't move. Later that day, Jason returned to the workshop, hoping she'd get bored. She didn't. She stood in the corner while he worked, watching every tool he picked up, every spark from the welding torch. Her gaze was intense, but not hostile, more like fascination. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore. Rakala, why are you still following me? Her golden eyes blinked slowly. Because you laughed, she said. Laughter means courage. Jason frowned. It was a joke, not a proposal. She tilted her head, confusion flickering across her face. Human customs are strange, but Tarini bonds are sacred. You mocked me without fear. You touched my spirit. Jason groaned. Great. I accidentally touched your spirit. Now you're my shadow. Rakala's tail swayed behind her. Shadow protects the flame, she said softly. And for a brief moment, Jason saw something in her expression, not just loyalty, but something deeper, something ancient, primal, and maybe even tender. The next few days turned into a pattern. Wherever he went, she followed. When he worked on the generator, she stood guard. When he went to eat, she sat across the hall staring at him. When he tried to rest, she camped by his door, her massive silhouette blocking the corridor lights. It was strange, annoying, and oddly comforting at the same time. For the first time since he arrived at the outpost, Jason didn't feel alone. Even if his protector was a 7-foot alien warrior who didn't understand personal space. One evening, during a storm that shook the entire base, power flickered and alarms blared. Jason ran toward the reactor room, and Rakala followed instantly, her claws scraping the floor. When lightning hit the comms tower, sparks exploded and a metal beam fell. Jason tripped, the beam crashing down just inches away. Before he could react, Rakala tackled him aside, shielding him with her body. The air filled with smoke, but all Jason could hear was her heartbeat against his ear. When the lights returned, she looked down at him, her fur singed but eyes calm. You are safe, she said, purring softly. I protect what is mine. Jason's chest tightened, not from fear this time, but confusion. How could someone so terrifying act so gentle toward him? She stood up and helped him rise, their hands brushing for the first time. Her claws were cold, but her palm was warm and trembling. Rakala, he began, but she interrupted. You will understand soon. Human, our bond has begun. And before he could speak again, she turned toward the door, scanning for danger. Jason stood there, heart racing, realizing something that made his stomach twist. He hadn't just made her purr. He had awakened something far stronger, something neither of them understood yet. Outside, thunder rolled again, and Rakala whispered a promise only she could hear. No one will take him from me. The storm passed, but the outpost was never the same again. Everyone had seen how Rakala threw herself over Jason to save him, and now whispers moved through every corridor like a current. By morning, even the commander knew. Commander Halden called Jason to his office. The man's face was tired, his eyes sharp behind thick glass lenses. Engineer Jason Hale, he said. I'm told you've developed a situation with the Tarini guard. Jason sighed. If by situation you mean she follows me everywhere and scares half the crew, then yes. Halden frowned. Do you understand what you've done? The Tarini have ancient bonding customs. You might have triggered one. Jason leaned back in his chair. Triggered? I only laughed. Halden tapped the table. To them, courage before a warrior is an invitation. They see fearlessness as a sign of mutual spirit. Jason groaned softly. Great, so I'm accidentally engaged. Outside the glass window, Rakala waited, arms folded across her armored chest. She stood still as stone, but her tail swayed like a metronome. Every few seconds her golden eyes shifted toward the door. Halden noticed it and sighed. She won't leave until you do, will she? Jason shook his head slowly. Not a chance. Later that day, when he left the office, Rakala fell into step beside him. You were questioned, she said, her voice low. Yeah, by the commander, he replied. They think you and I have some kind of bond. Rakala blinked. They are correct. Jason stopped walking. Wait, you actually believe that? She turned to face him fully, towering over him like a living wall of muscle and grace. In Tarini law, when a warrior claims scent and saves life, bond is formed, she said calmly. It cannot be undone. Jason rubbed his forehead. You've got to be kidding me. That night, while Jason worked in the generator bay, Rakala watched from the shadows. Every flicker of the plasma light reflected off her dark fur and golden armor. When he burned his finger on a hot panel, she was beside him in an instant. Her large hand covered his, her claws cool against his skin. You are fragile, she murmured. You should not work alone. Jason met her gaze, and for the first time didn't feel fear, only a strange warmth spreading in his chest. Days turned into weeks, and word spread beyond the outpost. Tarini patrols began visiting, bowing their heads slightly toward Jason. He didn't understand at first until one of them said, You carry Rakala's mark. Human, she has chosen well. Jason blinked. Mark? What mark? When he checked later, he found faint golden streaks across his wrist, glowing softly when Rakala was near. He didn't remember how or when they appeared, but every time she came close, the light pulsed gently like a heartbeat. The scientists tried to study it, but the readings made no sense. The glow responded to emotion, proximity, even sound. When Jason laughed, it shined brighter. When Rakala purred, it shimmered like molten gold. It was as if their bodies had begun to share something unseen, something alive. Commander Halden ordered distance between them. But when Rakala was kept outside the lab, Jason collapsed, clutching his chest as if the air had turned heavy. Alarms went off and medics rushed in, but nothing worked until she broke through the door and touched his hand. Instantly, he breathed again, the glow on his wrist steadying. Everyone froze, even the commander, realizing that whatever bond they shared was real. Rakala looked down at Jason, her voice trembling for the first time. Do not keep me from him again, she warned. His spirit calls mine. And no one dared to argue. That night, Jason sat alone in his room, staring at the golden mark on his wrist. It pulsed softly in rhythm with his heartbeat. He whispered, What are you doing to me, Rakala? Outside his door, the Beastwoman sat quietly, her eyes half closed, listening to the faint sound of his breath through the wall. To her, it was the sound of safety, the sound of home. And as the twin moons rose above the alien horizon, one thing became certain. This bond was no accident. It was destiny waiting to awaken. And neither human nor alien command could stop what was already written in their stars. The next morning began like any other, but Jason could feel something different in the air. The outpost lights flickered strangely, and the faint hum of the power cores sounded out of rhythm. He rubbed his wrist, staring at the faint golden glow that never truly faded anymore. Every time Rakala came close, it pulsed, almost like it was alive. He didn't understand how, but lately, when she felt angry or calm, he could sense it too. That day, while repairing a coolant pipe, Jason suddenly felt a wave of heat rush through his chest. His vision blurred for a second, and his hands trembled. He looked around, confused. What the hell? Then, across the bay, Rakala was arguing with another guard, her voice sharp and fierce. The feeling inside him matched her tone. Anger, frustration, pride. He blinked hard, realizing the truth. He wasn't just imagining things anymore. He was feeling her emotions. Later that evening, he found her sitting outside the outpost walls, looking at the stars. The sky was deep purple, streaked with the glowing trails of passing ships. Jason approached slowly. You can feel me, can't you? She didn't turn right away. Yes, and you can feel me too, she answered softly. It has begun. Jason sat down beside her. What has? She glanced at him, her golden eyes glowing like twin suns. The merge of spirit, human. It happens when two souls accept the bond. Jason frowned. I didn't accept anything. Rakala's ears twitched, and for the first time, she smiled faintly. You did, when you stopped fearing me. He chuckled under his breath. That's one weird way to propose. Her tail brushed the ground lightly. Among my people, there is no proposal, only connection. Before Jason could reply, the warning sirens screamed across the outpost. The ground trembled, and lights turned crimson. An explosion shook the eastern wall, sending dust and fire into the air. Urkala leaped to her feet instantly, claws unsheathing with a metallic hiss. "Raiders," she growled. "They come for supplies." Jason's heart pounded. "We have to reach the control room." Urkala grabbed his arm. "Stay close." He followed as she moved through the chaos, faster and stronger than anyone he'd ever seen. Alien raiders in dark armor stormed the corridors, their plasma rifles lighting up the halls. Urkala struck like lightning, claws tearing through metal and weapon alike. But even through the noise and heat, Jason could feel her pulse through the bond. Sharp, protective, wild. When one of the raiders aimed for Jason, Urkala spun and took the hit herself. The blast hit her shoulder, sparks flying as her armor cracked. Jason screamed her name, pain stabbing through his chest at the same moment. He dropped to his knees, clutching his side, even though he wasn't hit. It was her pain, echoing through him like fire. Urkala roared, slamming the attacker into the wall, her fury shaking the room. "Jason, behind me," she commanded. He staggered up, breathing hard. "You're bleeding." "I heal fast," she said, even as blood trickled down her arm. "You will not be harmed." She pushed him toward a reinforced door. "Lock it. I will end this." But he didn't move. "I'm not leaving you." Their eyes met, human and alien, fear and fire. And for a heartbeat, everything else disappeared. Through their bond, Jason felt her resolve, her pain, her strange affection that had grown stronger each day. He took a step forward, his voice shaking. "If you fall, I fall too." Something inside her changed then. The fury melted into something fierce and tender. She pressed her forehead against his for a brief second, the ancient gesture of her people. Then she turned, roaring into the chaos, her claws glowing gold. The sight was terrifying and beautiful, a Beastwoman protecting what she loved. Minutes later, the raiders retreated, their ships burning as they fled into the sky. The outpost lay in ruins, smoke rising from shattered towers. Jason ran through the debris until he found Urkala leaning against a broken beam, wounded but alive. When he touched her arm, the golden light from his wrist spread across her skin, sealing the wound slowly. Both of them froze, watching the glow flow between them like living energy. She looked at him in awe. "Our spirits share strength now." Jason nodded slowly, still breathing hard. "Guess we're connected for real." Urkala's purr returned, soft but full of emotion. "We are one." And as the first dawn rays broke through the smoke, Jason realized that whatever was happening between them wasn't just an accident or alien magic. It was something deeper, something alive. And it was only the beginning. 3 days after the attack, the outpost was quiet again. The fires had died, the walls were patched, and the wounded were being treated. But peace felt fragile, like a glass ready to crack. Jason spent most of his time in the medical wing, sitting beside Urkala as she rested. She had healed quickly, faster than any human could, but her strength wasn't what worried him. It was the silence in her eyes. She sat up slowly, looking at him. "You should rest, human." Jason shook his head. "You saved everyone. I'm not leaving you now." Urkala tilted her head, a faint smile pulling at her lips. Always stubborn. Before he could answer, the door opened, and Commander Halden entered with 2 alien officers dressed in ceremonial armor. Their presence filled the room with tension. Jason stood, sensing trouble. The taller alien spoke first, his voice deep and echoing. "Urkala of the Tarini Guard, by order of the Council, you are summoned for judgment." Urkala's tail went still. "On what charge?" "Bonding with an off-worlder," the officer said coldly. "You have broken the ancestral code." Jason frowned. "Hey, she didn't choose this, it just happened." The alien turned to him, his eyes narrowing. "And yet the human lives, marked by her energy, you share what no outsider should." Urkala stepped forward, placing herself between Jason and the guards. "If the council demands judgment, they will speak to both of us," she said, her tone steady. Halden sighed. "They've already sent a ship. They want you both transported to the capital moon." Jason looked at him in disbelief. "You can't just hand us over." The commander's voice softened. "I don't have a choice, son. This is their territory." Later that night, as they waited for the transport, Jason stood by the observation window, watching the stars drift like distant fireflies. Urkala joined him quietly, her reflection glowing gold in the glass. "You don't seem scared," he said. She shook her head slowly. "The bond protects what it touches. If they harm one, the other suffers." Jason turned to her. "So if they punish you, I'll feel it too." "Yes," she said, her voice almost a whisper. "That is why I will not let them touch you." The journey to the capital moon took 2 days. The ship was silent, guarded by Tarini soldiers who refused to meet their eyes. Jason spent most of the time staring at the strange runes carved into the walls. When he asked Urkala what they meant, she said, "They are words of honor and of obedience." He smirked. "Guess you're not big on the second part." Her tail flicked once, amusement flashing in her eyes. "Not when it comes to you." When they arrived, the capital was breathtaking. Massive silver towers floating above oceans of light. The council hall stood at its heart, glowing with power that made the air hum. They were led into a circular chamber where 6 elder Tarini sat on high platforms, their eyes glowing like burning suns. One of them spoke. "Urkala, daughter of the Fongmoon line, you have bonded with a human. Explain yourself." She stepped forward proudly. "The bond formed by spirit, not by intent." He showed courage. I answered it. A murmur ran through the hall. Another elder leaned forward. "And the human, what does he say?" Jason swallowed hard. "I didn't mean for this to happen, but I won't abandon her." The elders exchanged glances, their eyes unreadable. Finally, the oldest one spoke. "Then you both carry the consequence. The bond cannot be undone, but it will be tested. If your unity is false, it will destroy you." The floor beneath them began to glow, the light swirling around their feet like molten gold. Urkala grabbed Jason's hand instinctively. Energy surged through their bodies, connecting their hearts, their breath, their thoughts. Jason gasped as flashes of memory filled his mind. Her childhood, her battles, her loneliness. Urkala trembled, seeing his fears, his laughter, his humanity. For a moment, they were one soul split between 2 beings. When the light faded, both fell to their knees, breathing hard. The elder's voice echoed through the chamber. "The bond holds. It is true." Gasps filled the hall. Urkala looked up defiantly. "Then by your law, he is one of us." The elders stared in silence before the oldest nodded slowly. "So it shall be." As they left the chamber, Jason looked at her. "What just happened?" She smiled faintly. "We survived their judgment." He laughed softly. "That's becoming a habit." She glanced at him with warmth in her golden eyes. "Then let it be our habit." Outside, beneath the glowing towers, the stars burned brighter. And somewhere deep inside both of them, the bond pulsed again, stronger, deeper, unbreakable. What started as a laugh had now become something the universe itself had witnessed. Something neither human nor alien could ever undo. Days passed after the council's judgment, yet nothing felt normal again. Jason and Urkala were housed in a crystal tower overlooking the endless light of the capital moon. Guards saluted her now, and even the elders whispered about the bonded pair. But Jason could feel something changing inside him, something strange and alive. At night, when he closed his eyes, he saw flashes that weren't his own. A battlefield covered in violet mist, the echo of roars and steel, Urkala's memories bleeding into his mind. He woke gasping, his wrist glowing brighter than ever. Urkala was there instantly, her hand on his chest. "You feel the call," she said softly. Jason nodded weakly. "It's like, I'm seeing through your eyes." She looked at him with pride and worry. "The merge grows. Our spirits share strength now." Over the next days, the effects deepened. When she trained, his pulse raced. When she fought, his muscles tightened. He began to move with her rhythm, almost predicting her steps. During a sparring session, one of the Tarini captains attacked her with full force. Jason shouted without thinking, and energy burst from his wrist, forming a shield of golden light that blocked the strike. The entire training hall went silent. Urkala's eyes widened. "You used my power." Jason stared at his glowing hand, trembling. "I didn't mean to." She smiled slightly. "Then the bond has made you part of me." But power never stays unnoticed. That night, a shadow watched them from the rooftops, a figure in black armor with crimson eyes. When the council learned of Jason's awakening, they grew uneasy. One elder warned, "The human carries Tarini essence. If he loses control, he could tear the balance of our world. They placed watchers outside their quarters, and rumors spread like wildfire through the capital. Jason could feel the weight of their eyes everywhere he went. Rakala hated it. They fear what they do not understand, she growled. Jason tried to calm her. We'll prove them wrong. We'll show them this isn't a curse. But deep inside, even he wasn't sure. That evening, the crimson-eyed figure finally struck. Explosions shattered the tower windows, alarms wailed, and smoke filled the corridors. Rakala roared, her claws glowing gold as she leapt into battle. Jason grabbed a fallen guard's weapon, feeling strange energy surging through his veins. When the attacker fired a plasma bolt, Jason lifted his hand instinctively. A golden wave burst out, consuming the shot and hurling it back. The explosion threw the enemy across the hall, armor cracking like glass. Rakala ran to Jason, eyes full of awe. You are changing faster than I thought. He shook his head, breathing hard. I'm not even sure I'm still human. She touched his cheek gently. You just carry both worlds now. Before they could speak again, the air filled with the deep voice of the Elder Council, broadcast across the city. The human and the bonded guard must return to the chamber. The test is not complete. They were escorted once more into the great hall, its light burning brighter than before. The elders looked down from their high seats. The bond has grown beyond nature, one said. You must choose, to stay joined or to separate forever. Jason felt Rakalia's hand tighten around his, her claws trembling slightly. If you separate, the elder continued, the human will live, but the bond's power will vanish. The Beastwoman will forget. Jason looked at her, his heart pounding. Rakala whispered, if we break it, you return home. He shook his head slowly. Home isn't Earth anymore. The hall filled with silence, the golden mark on their wrists glowing together. Then Jason said firmly, we choose to stay. The chamber erupted with light, the floor trembling. Energy surged through both of them, a torrent of warmth and color. Their bond stabilized, fusing into something new. Not Tarini, not human, but both. When the light faded, the elders stared in awe. The stars have spoken. The eldest said, the bond is eternal. Jason turned to Rakala, his voice soft. Guess we're really stuck together now. She purred gently, her golden eyes full of warmth. Not stuck, united. And as the twin moons of the capital glowed above them, the universe itself seemed to bow to what they had become. Two souls, one heartbeat, one destiny. Weeks passed since the council accepted their bond. Jason and Rakala had become a legend whispered across the stars. A human and a beastwoman, united by something even the elders could not define. But peace never lasts long in a galaxy built on fear and power. Reports came from the border colonies. An ancient enemy had returned. The Varkesh, creatures of void and shadow, feeding on energy itself. They devoured suns, erased cities, and their ships were already burning through Tarini space. The council ordered evacuation, but Rakala refused. If we run, there will be no stars left to run to, she said, her claws gripping her weapon tightly. Jason stood beside her, his wrist glowing brighter than ever. Then we fight. The battlefield stretched above a dying moon. Thousands of ships gathered, their engines painting the black sky in streaks of blue fire. Rakala commanded her squad from the bridge, her voice steady and fierce. Jason worked the energy conduits, linking the bond to the ship's power core. For the first time, human technology and Tarini spirit merged as one. When the Varkesh arrived, they came like living storms. Black tendrils cutting through space, swallowing light itself. Rakala growled, they consume life. Jason's heart pounded. Then let's give them something they can't digest. The first wave hit, ships shattered, alarms screamed. Rakala leapt to the command rail, roaring orders to the fleet. Jason's hands glowed, channeling golden energy into the reactors. Power surged through the entire formation, turning their cannons into suns. Fire! Rakala shouted, and the stars answered. Explosions painted the void in gold and crimson. The Varkesh howled, their bodies cracking under the light. But there were too many, and soon their shadows surrounded the flagship. Jason stumbled, pain spreading through his chest. They're drawing power from the bond. Rakala grabbed his shoulders. Then we must give more. She pressed her forehead to his, and the glow between them ignited. It wasn't just energy anymore. It was emotion, trust, love. The light burst from them like a star being born. Every ship in the fleet turned gold. Every Tarini warrior felt the surge in their hearts. The void creatures screamed as the light devoured them, dissolving their darkness into dust. Jason and Rakala stood together in the storm of brilliance, their hearts beating as one. When the light faded, silence filled the stars. The Varkesh were gone, their fleet reduced to drifting ashes. The Tarini ships floated in peace, and whispers spread through the calms. They did it, someone said. The bonded pair saved us. Jason fell to his knees, exhausted, his body trembling. Rakala caught him before he hit the floor, cradling him gently. Her voice shook. Stay with me, my human. He smiled weakly. You're warm and heavy. She purred softly, tears glimmering in her golden eyes. I will never leave. They watched as the twin suns of the capital rose again. The darkness had passed, but the universe would never forget what happened that day. Two beings from different worlds had stood against extinction and turned it into light. Months later, the Tarini built a monument on the moon where they fought. A statue of a human and a Beastwoman standing side by side, hands joined, hearts glowing. Jason laughed when he saw it. They made me taller. Rakala chuckled low. I allowed it. She leaned close, her breath warm against his ear. You laughed once and changed my life. He grinned. Guess I should do it more often. As night fell across the horizon, Rakala wrapped her tail around his waist, pulling him closer. The stars above shimmered like witnesses to their promise. No force, no law, no darkness could ever break what they had built together. For theirs was not just a bond of instinct or fate. It was proof that even across galaxies, love still found a way. And as the universe turned, silent and endless, somewhere in that golden light, a human laugh and a beastwoman's purr echoed forever. Together, eternal, unbreakable, and free.